but I hope I'm part of a system that has truly figured out how to center the student experience putting things at students' fingertips, ensuring their success, being able to show them the impact of what's been happening, supporting them in ways. And it's not this hero's journey and this expensive, crazy endeavor. It's a seamless accessing of information and opportunity that really truly centers the student. And higher ed's role is making sure that that happens on a continuously improving the access of quality of information basis. So I think those are the two worlds.
All right, everybody, welcome again to another fabulous episode of Edu Unlocked with me, Ashish Fernando. We are here talking to inspirational leaders in education, leaders who are not just walking the walk, but also walking the talk. Leaders who are inspirational in terms of how we should move higher ed forward. And joining us today is one such inspirational person, Dr. Anne Khademian. Dr. Anne, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Ashish. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Dr. Anne, you have a fabulous, illustrious profile, career, and background. I'm going to try to do my bit to give our users a little, I would say, 100,000 feet view of who you are. Dr. Anne is a distinguished scholar, and she's a leader in higher education. She's been doing this for over 20 years at this point, Anne, right?
Yeah, for at least, maybe 30 years or so.
30. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. All
yeah,
right. My
yeah.
number's dated already. But Dr. Khademian is now the executive director of the universities at Shady Grove, which is part of the University System of Maryland. But prior to this, Dr. Khademian was also with Virginia Tech, where she was in leadership roles and a presidential fellow, director of the School of Public and International Affairs. And she's been driving significant growth, not just academically, but even beyond academics and into employment. And we're going to talk about some of those things in the little time we have today. But Dr. Khademian, I am excited to talk to you about everything from diversity and inclusion in the admissions process all the way to equity and inclusion in the job market for students. So we'll get started.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So Anne, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to choose this as your career path and your future.
I got into an academic career path kind of by another decision. I was a runner, and I was injured my senior year, so I was given a chance to redshirt. It's called, you can come back for another year because I was injured, but you had to be enrolled in a bona fide graduate program. And I was always planning to go to law school, but Michigan State didn't have a law school. So I said, okay, political science. So I started the political science graduate program and the Masters of Public Administration program, and just really enjoyed it thoroughly. And, went on to get my PhD. And the obvious path out of that was into, teaching and things. So I taught at the University of Wisconsin, taught for a while at Michigan and at Penn, and then found my way to Virginia Tech. And I think what I enjoyed most about the academic life and experience was the engagement with the students, the learning process, the joy of learning, the excitement of new ideas being hatched and written about and explored and taken apart and looked at in different ways. And so I always enjoyed working with students. I enjoyed that collaborative work. I worked with a lot of graduate students, especially in the PhD space, and thinking about their work methodologically and in terms of their question that they were asking empirically, and the kind of theoretical framework they were using, and how all those things came together for fascinating insights on the world. And so I really enjoyed that. I loved writing, I loved teaching, I loved being part of that world. But there was always something for me that was frustrating about it as well. You know, there was all of the institutions I was in, beautiful, amazing institutions, great colleagues, but higher
Mhm.
education as an industry, you know, there's an exclusivity to it. You know, no matter how much we try to think about inclusivity, there is an exclusionary component to it. And, you know, frankly, a lot of institutions were designed to be exclusionary,
Sure.
and we've worked hard to make them more inclusive. But it's very hard when you're in a big institution, that's kind of has certain ways of doing things. It's very hard to make significant change. So when the opportunity came to come to the universities at Shady Grove, I just like it was like the heavens opened up. The job I had
Mm,
waited for my whole life was here because it was in the academic space in this incredibly unique institution. I mean, this is where we are here at the universities at Shady Grove. We're a regional higher education center in the University System of Maryland, where
mm,
9 of our system partners come together in one space to offer 80-degree programs. And we do it with a 2+2 pathway. So students get their community college degree and then they come to Shady Grove for their last 2 years, and they can go to graduate school as well here. So it's affordable, it's accessible, it's directly connected to the workforce. It's right here in Montgomery County, right? All of these things. And so it's a complicated institution. I mean, we may talk more about that. It is really complicated. But from a
mhm.
student perspective, it has the potential to be groundbreaking, to be, I think, could help drive change in higher education, or at least create a new model in higher education that I think is desperately needed. So it's hard work. We're constantly slugging away at the silly putty to try to make change. But I think it's really important work and it motivates me every day. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's fantastic. I mean, I've been recently had the fortune of working with non-traditional institutions, right? So institutions which kind of like I work with online schools like Western Governors. There's
Yeah.
some K-12, some in the middle, like the GED, that are, built for adult learners who kind of skip through high school. And it's just fascinating to see how much potential like the non-traditional models have, like even the community college through the pathway programs and all of that. Like being an international student, I didn't even know of all these possibilities, right? For me as an Indian kid with an Indian family, it's either be an engineer, be a doctor, and do it the traditional way. Like
Yes.
there's no other way. And so it's really interesting to see that you can actually get education for a fraction of the typical cost with almost the same value, leading to the same kind of jobs and employment. And a lot of people sadly don't know about it. I feel like it's an information silo. And like, how do we address that?
You're asking exactly the right best question. I mean, I think we have a tradition of funding traditional institutions, right? Traditional institutions where, as you said, it's a traditional pathway. And it's something we've all, you know, many of us, we've aspired to this our whole lives. You know, our parents, you're going to go to college, you're going to go to a, you know, traditional campus. And yes, of course, we're going to do that. And, you know, so it is a cultural achievement to be at a traditional institution. It is something that many of us grow up in homes where we aspire to that. And that's beautiful. And I hope we keep doing that. I hope these institutions continue to thrive and are wonderful places. But because of that dominant understanding of the college education, these alternative models they're very hard to explain. They're under the radar. They're often different initiatives or one-offs or one institution doing it. So it's going to take some time. But I think we're at a very kind of ripe moment in history right now when the public is frustrated with higher education. And at
Yeah.
Shady Grove, we're very focused on, you know, what we hope, what we're working towards is we'd like to see eventually every student who comes through here that they are completely career ready. They've got all their career competencies. They've had some employer-based experiential learning while they're here. We'd like to see them graduate debt free as well.
Yeah.
We'd like to see them graduate
Great.
with choices, with options, right? That it's not like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I graduate. I'm not sure. You know, they've got connections to graduate schools, to employers, to, you know, possibilities where they have choices. And I think when we can be really clear about what the outcomes are of these alternative models, the communication becomes really good. Ashish, I ran into a father and a son the other day in one of our buildings over here at Shady Grove.
Hmm.
He, the family had immigrated from Iran, and the son was in a program, an early college program. So he was getting his high school diploma at the same time he was getting his associate's degree, right? And when you do that here in Montgomery County, your associate's degree is free. So he's getting his
Wow.
first 2 years of college free. And he was so
Wow.
eager to transfer into the program here. And
Yeah.
from the parents' perspective, it's like it makes perfect sense, right? His son could still live at home. He didn't have to worry about housing. He had access to some of the best. College Park is here, UMBC is here, the University of Maryland, Baltimore is here, Towson's here, Salisbury is here. Like you have access to great schools, and you get
That's
your
right. These are
diploma from
amazing
that
schools.
school, right? They're right
Yeah.
here. So from this father's perspective, for whom education was the top priority, the absolute top priority for he and his son and his family, he saw the value instantly of this alternative model. And I think as we get more clear and we can deliver more and we can express more and show the measures of that, I think the word will get out. We just have we're kind of punching against a lot of history and a lot of culture and a lot of dominant information that just we have to it'll come through, but we have to show some really good results to do that.
That's Thank you for sharing that story, Anne. I mean, these are the powerful stories that, we love to hear on the podcast. And, like what the reason I, by the way, started all of this in high school is because I got to come to this country even though I did not have the financial means. I don't know how the stars aligned, but I got a full ride to Bentley for my MBA, and my world literally flipped 180 degrees, and add to that, like some of the things I did non-traditional to the Indian culture. I did not become an engineer, not a doctor. I went through the non-traditional route, and somehow things kind of fell in place. And I was debt free at the end of my master's degree program, and it unlocks so much of the brain, the mind's capacity to think about your career, about your future, right? That it's yeah. So when I see, like, on the news, I see all these students with placards saying, hey, cut my debt, like, please save me, help me. It's actually it's so sad to see that the generation now is a little different. It's not just the, hey, here's the one skill I'm going to learn in college, and then that's the skill I'm going to find my job, and then I'm going to stay in that job for 25 years. It's a little diverse. They want to do a lot more things, and
Yeah,
employers need to understand that absolutely. And
yeah.
I feel, and I want to get your thoughts on this, but I feel like we're in this technology age where every day there's a new technology that pops up, and employers want that skill set, right? So some of them stick, some of them don't, like cloud technologies, yes, stuck. But Web3 and metaverse, like nobody talks about it. It like came and went in a year. And it's hard for institutions to switch gears based on, what's the new trend. Like now AI is the new trend, but it's hard for institutions to switch gears and say, yeah, now we're going to be able to train students right away, right, in the next 6 months. So, uh, and that I feel like creates a little more of that employment gap because employers are looking for a certain skill set that's brand new that nobody's done before. What are your thoughts on that?
I believe that still a college degree is incredibly valuable. I think there's a lot that goes into a college degree about learning to think critically, being exposed to different ideas, being exposed to different disciplines, and your overall development as a human, as a thinker and as a doer, right? I think it's really important. But we need skills at the ready that we can apply in these areas, So, I may be um, I may have the heart of a long distance swimmer and I'm a really good long distance swimmer, but I may need to work on my flutter kick, right? Or I may need to work on other skills in that, or I may need better goggles for what I'm doing or something, right? So there's always going to be things that enhance what we're doing or that give more, more specific direction. And I think this is an area also where higher ed needs to get creative. And I don't think we need to do it all ourselves. In fact, I think given the way that certificates are developed and degree programs are developed, there's no time for us to do it ourselves. By the time you've developed a certificate in such and such and such, we're already on to the next technology, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
this is where the partnerships with technology companies, with private firms, with those who are, this is where we need to learn integration and partnership. This is where we need to learn how you build, how you make some of these tools accessible to students while they're here, how you build them into the curriculum, how you um, offer co-curricular opportunities, how you, give students these tools in a partnered kind of way. I don't think higher ed needs to do it all itself.
yeah. Fantastic. Love the answer. And then kind of segueing and continuing that conversation into the awareness of skills. And that's a pain point for not just higher ed, for just the world over, right? In terms of just there's a potential employee sitting somewhere who just is not aware that his or her skills fit this job, right? And everybody from Indeed and LinkedIn and Handshake have tried to kind of make that match, but it's just been hard. Um, what are your thoughts in terms of how to fill that gap? Because it's in a lot of ways, it's not about the lack of education, right? It's just about the lack of awareness too.
Mhm.
Um, because now you have people with bachelor's and master's degrees struggling to find a job.
It's we need more imagination, creativity on both sides, I think. So I have a couple of quick thoughts. One is I think this is where we need to think locally, and we need to think it more in terms of shared responsibility. And these are terms that we use here at Shady Grove, and this is the way we're trying to
Mhm.
approach this gap here at Shady Grove. So if you can figure out how to bring employers into the academic experience earlier, employers become, not only are employers able to share what they need, what kind of talent they're looking for. So you may be a biotech company, but you also need finance people, you need marketers, you need communication experts, you need HR experts as well, right? So there's a whole range of talent that you might need. Someone who's an HR specialist might not think about looking in the biotech sector, but yes, biotech companies need them as well. So I think that there's one part of it, I think, is thinking a little bit more locally, thinking about your local ecosystem. And what we're doing here at Shady Grove is we've created these industry sector hubs. The idea is to bring together employers in that area with academic partners in that area, the degree programs in that area, and with our USG team and with students to explore where the need is and the possibility, and to identify areas of demand, areas of, maybe it's a new degree, maybe it's a kind of partnership, maybe it's a kind of mentoring, whatever it is that you need to make that pathway more robust, but you're doing it together. And I think that creates an awareness from the students and the academic side, as well as from the employer side, about what the possibilities are, what kind of talent is needed, who's doing what to fill this kind of need. So that kind of building a local ecosystem approach, I think, is one way to think about it. But I do think there needs to be, and there needs to be some technology solutions to some of this as well. And there's some pretty cool things out there, like this product called Wallet, that allows you to see your whole portfolio of your skills and things you've learned and the
Yeah.
places you've worked, and how that maps on to what employers are looking for in terms of skills development, and to be able to access those kinds of databases that where you can start to see your skills and where they might be applicable. And the more we do that, the more we see these cross-referencing opportunities as well to do different things. But I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately going to be a big part of the solution, I think.
Yeah, yeah, well said. And I think, yeah, that gap, of course, exists more on the low to medium middle income
Yeah.
bracket than it does on the higher side. But a story comes to mind. I have a really close friend of mine. Her husband was actually at my place yesterday for dinner. Ukrainian descent, came here, background in marketing, did her bachelor's and master's in marketing, but was struggling to find a marketing job because she needed sponsorship and all of that. Loves driving trucks. So now she actually works as a truck driver for this company, but she is their main marketing person because she's so good at blogging, while she's doing this whole trucking thing, blogging, spreading the word on the company, and she's their number one recruiter
Amazing.
because
Amazing.
all
Yeah.
these other truckers are seeing the life that this trucking company gives to its employees. And like, they take them on these of
Amazing.
once a few months, they take them on a boat and, a few things, and she'll like talk about it. And she loves her job. She's like marketing background and in a job that, people typically don't talk about as this most sought after job, right? A trucking semi-truck driver. She loves it.
It's a trucking company that's figured out, right, the importance of the quality of life at the company and opportunities for people to succeed as well. And that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So companies are more than just their functional role, right? They're a community, they're a culture, they're a place of advancement, they're a place of growth and enrichment. And I think the more companies understand that, the easier it will be to recruit as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it comes down a lot to the leader's mindset and how they're thinking about company culture. I'm not the best at it, honestly. I try a lot to do things, but there's so many other things you got to worry about, and then you have your investors, and you have so many other. But yeah, it's been an interesting question I try to answer all the time.
Great.
So talking about leadership, a lot of our listeners are aspiring leaders who wanna, be someone like you, do things like you. So tell us about the coolest part of your job and the hardest part of your job.
Well, the coolest part is definitely the people I get to work with, not
Okay.
only, the students you see every single day, the students are just amazing. Actually, we should say learners because we have
Yeah.
a wide range of ages here at Shady Grove, and they're all learners, and we're all learners in life. But the learners who are coming through the programs here, many of them have so many responsibilities. They've got work responsibilities. Some of them are carrying two jobs. They have family responsibilities. Maybe they're helping taking care of a younger sibling or older parents, or they have their own family and their own children, and they're all trying to figure out how to finance their own education. And, they got to take the bus from way over someplace to get over here. Like there's so many challenges that they're facing. During the pandemic, we had students sitting in the garage in the middle of winter to access the Wi-Fi so they could participate in their classes, right? Like
Yeah. Wow.
because
Yeah.
the buildings were closed, everything was closed, they couldn't get Wi-Fi at home, but they sat in their car to access the Wi-Fi in the garage. I mean,
Yeah.
the kind of dedication is just amazing. As I said, it shouldn't have to be a hero's journey to get your degree, but we have
Hmm.
a lot of heroes here on this campus who are just amazingly good people and who care about their community, and they want their degree because they want to not only help their family, but they want to make a difference in their community. And so, getting to work with students and also the team here at Shady Grove, so it's definitely that, they're all motivated by the mission, they're all motivated by the work we do. If you work in higher ed and you work at the state level, you don't make a lot of money, but you sure care a lot about the students that you serve and the work you're doing. So that's definitely the best part. The most challenging part, and there's a lot of challenges, but I think patience is one big challenge.
Mm.
We did a whole strategic planning process. We took a year, set out the vision. We've been now building the infrastructure and the enterprise changes to bring that about. And there's a lot of culture change. We operate in the University System of Maryland. We operate in Montgomery County with multiple partners, multiple university partners, multiple employers. I mean, it's like this, like they say in Shrek, onions. Ogres are like onions. Like we're like this really complicated onion, lots and lots of
Yeah.
layers, and it's some of the layers aren't very pretty, some of them are better than others, but it's complicated, and I want to see change happen faster, and I
Mm.
want to see things happen faster, and we can see where we want to go, but are the academic partners on board, and did we do all our due diligence here, and we got to get away from the one-off, I call them Vegas weddings, like the one-off
Mm.
MOUs, the one-off initiatives, where everyone's like, we just run and do something. And haven't thought about, from a Vegas wedding perspective, right? Faith, finances, or family, right? We haven't really developed the infrastructure. And so just reminding folks that we're not a nonprofit, we're a state agency, and what we're doing has to be sustainable, and it has to be a meaningful investment of the state's funds in what we're doing with a great ROI. And so sometimes that means just being a little bit more patient, a little bit slower, a little bit more thoughtful. And so I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing for me, is I want to see things happen yesterday. And
Yeah, sure.
because
Yeah.
the team is really clear about where we're going and what we're doing, but how we get there, and how we get there sustainably, and how we get there in a way that honors the investment that the state has made in us, and really honors the student journey in a way that we can deliver it once, twice, three, four, five, and on and on, So I think I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of things. There's a
I'm
lot of things
sure.
there's a lot of things I do wrong. There's a lot of lessons I learn every day. There's a lot of, I have great colleagues who are gentle with me, who, kind of keep me on a right course and let me know when I'm, going off the rails and things. So, but those two things stand out for me: people and
Uh,
patience.
I love it. I love the fact that you start with people. I see, the most inspirational leaders and the most successful leaders always put people as the number one, and
It's
and
all
so
about
glad
people.
to
Yeah.
to see you. You literally started the response with people. And that's fantastic. And also the humility that you bring in. I'm just grateful for leaders like you, because you're like, oh, I do things wrong, and sometimes my people tell me, like, not not every leader says that.
Well, I'm lucky to have people who are honest with me. I mean, I have
Yeah,
a team that's really honest with me. And I'm sure sometimes people are afraid to say, I don't know who's going to tell Anne that she's like, off the rails. But
yeah,
usually people do. And I'm really grateful for that. So, that's the only way we do this. I feel like we're in uncharted waters, and we're doing things that have not been done. And we're starting to discover more partners and more examples of what we're doing. And that's really energizing, and it's a good reinforcement, of I was at a conference yesterday where hearing what people are doing in a certain space, and it's like, yes, oh yes, like someone else is doing this work too, and we can learn from them, and we can share experience and be bolstered by each other. But we are in a new space, and a lot of what we're doing is still, even for our team here, while we kind of know what we want for outcomes, the transition is tough. It's hard, and it's hard
yeah,
to, this has always been my job. Now you're telling me my job is this, but I'm not sure how to get there. And, so it's a lot of difficult change and transition. But, if you've got about a third of your team who gets it and who's driving it and is on board, like, you got it made. So, and we definitely
yeah.
have about a third of our team who gets it and who's working hard to get us there. And we'll get there. I've told people we're on a 10-year journey for this ultimate transformation. So, patience, patience.
Patience, patience is a key. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My people have to remind me of that too, because I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I need the greatest, fastest, best technology, and I want it to work yesterday. Yeah, so
yeah,
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 no, I
yeah.
totally get it. But from the sound of it, it does look like the needle's been moving for you
Hmm.
over time, right? And there's been progress, and because you kind of have that, when you say it, you're bright, and you say, yeah, it's a 10-year journey, but it feels like you're moving. Yeah.
I mean, I think we've made a lot of progress in standing up our new enterprise. So part of the work, the heart of this work has been, how do we change the way we work here? And Shady Grove has always been an innovation. I mean, there was nothing like it when it's created. There still is nothing really like it, except for our other two regional higher education centers in the system. And so the going from a place where, you know, 9 university partners bring 80 degree programs. And really, the way to make that work, every degree program is just kind of like, yeah, this is our degree program. We're going to bring this team. I call it the U-Haul model, right? Like we pull up our U-Haul and we do everything we would do on the home campus, but we do it from Shady Grove. Oh, and
Mm.
we need help doing these things, right? We need help doing all these things. And so the Shady Grove team has been great at kind of making it work for every degree program, different kinds of students, different kind of needs, different kinds of priorities. but the student support, the IT support, all these things have all been kind of, adjusted to whatever individual partners need. And while that has gotten Shady Grove going and has been able to produce, thousands of four-year degrees that if not for Shady Grove would not be out, these students would not be out there, these graduates, it's not a model that scales, right? It's a
Mm.
model. We've been about the same number of students for like a decade or so, like right around 3,000, a little bit more, a little bit less. And a model that scales would be one where, we're at 6,000 students, we're growing.
Yeah.
And, but we can't scale with that model because it's a model of, of kind of responding to all these little different initiatives. And so if you think about marketing, for example, our marketing team has traditionally said, okay, so this degree program needs a video, and this degree program needs a flyer, and this degree program needs, so our marketing team, this incredibly talented team, very talented team, but their work is diluted by the fact that they're doing all these small little projects for individual degree programs that are going off and doing all their own thing, right? So our effort is to kind of bring that together. We're going through a whole rebranding exercise and to really focus strategically on learner groups that support all of the degree programs that are part of all the pathways and the hubs, right? So it's a more strategic use of our marketing team and their time, but you got to get the academic partners, like, to be okay with that and to buy into that as well. And so there's a scaling challenge that we've been addressing as we've been implementing our strategic plan. And that's going from this kind of different divisions doing different services to this hub model. And the hub model, as I said, brings these different teams together. And then the services support the initiatives of the hub. So each hub says, for this business enterprise or for this industry sector, these are the kinds of things we need in the pathway. These are the kinds of things these are the degrees we need. These are the mentoring things we need. This is what we need. And the role of the service lines then are to support those initiatives and to help build those initiatives. So not only getting the hubs stood up, just the idea of the hubs, getting our board of advisors reorganized to support that, trying to build talent and capacity in the service lines, some that was there, some that needed to grow, some that wasn't there. So getting all of those things built up, we've made really good progress in those areas. We're now starting to see the benefits of that approach and how we activate it. Our enrollment numbers have ticked up a little bit. We've seen some things, but I think it's going to be over the next year with the initiatives coming out of the hubs and the work of that. I think that's where you're going to really start to see the transition and the transformation. So that's why I say patience, because I went the hubs
Yeah.
to 2 years ago, but it's getting people to understand the hubs and how they're not just committees out there, but they're the new engines that drive the work
They're the new entrant.
of our
Yeah.
collective enterprise. And it's not just 9 university partners coming to do their own thing. It's all of us coming together with this common goal of improving access and affordability and greater ROI upon graduation. Like, we're all in that together. We're all working on that together. And that's what the pathway building is all about. So it's not everybody coming with their own different ideas. It's coming together around that one goal. And so that's a culture shift too, because you're asking academic partners to be a little bit different when they're here on campus and how they think about things as well. So
Hard change. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I see
Mm.
growth in that culture change. I see growth in the capacity we're building. I see growth in the enterprise being stood up. I see growth and I'm really excited by that. But in terms of how the students are starting to experience that, I think the students are starting to experience a lot more of the career readiness focus. Our team has been great about delivering the career readiness. Our students are always getting really good support in terms of their financial support, in terms of their wellness support. We've seen our wellness function grow and our support for students in that area really grow as
That's
well.
awesome.
So there's some key, we're building a data piece. We had our first conference around our Ready Institute and the data that we bring to our talent development, economic development work. So there are clear things that we're starting to put out new and fresh and, that are growing, but to see the actual impact of our new enterprise on students in a big way in terms of outcomes, I think that's probably a year out. So.
Got it. Got it. And well, not final question, the one before that. So in terms of career readiness and all of that, you said the team is building. All of that right now is happening in-house. They're looking at building different tools and things for students in-house. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
so we have a fabulous student affairs team. It's been one of the strongest units here at Shady Grove for years.
Okay.
And they spent a lot of time looking at the NACE competencies and
Yeah,
looking at, teamwork, leadership, communication skills, right? And so the first reorganization we did here at Shady Grove was a complete reorganization of our student affairs around the 9 competencies. And so the focus of how we deliver student services is around those 9 competencies. And every
understood.
student, when they get here, they can download the Hire You, like Hire You with a university, higher
Nice.
education. They can download the Hire You app and they instantly start tracking their co-curricular progress in each of those 9 areas. So
That's fantastic.
that's ongoing. Students have a record of their career competencies and what that looks like. And we have agreement with Montgomery College and with Montgomery County Public Schools to embrace those 9 competencies as well as key to the pathway that comes here to Shady Grove. So if you think of every pathway having, every student exposed to career competencies, every student exposed to great academic content, every student exposed to employers and experiential learning, and every student getting the support they need, like those are the 4 pillars, the 4 components of any pathway. And then it varies depending upon what's the academic content, who are the employers, right? But that career readiness stays the same, the student support stays the same. And so that's one like core component of our pathway work that is really activated and going, and students are really taking advantage of that and embracing the Hire You work. Wellness is one of those competencies. And so we've grown the wellness function from just being counseling to now being overall wellness. And that program also is reaching a lot of students. We have free acupuncture here. I mean, we have
Oh,
like
wow.
acupuncture sessions and things.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like one of the most popular days is acupuncture day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of growth in those areas for direct services to students, for career competency support for students, but it's one part, it's one part of this bigger pathway building effort. If you ask what our product is at Shady Grove, it's pathways. Like our product is pathways because we're building pathways that help students, realize their full potential and get a great ROI on their investment. And so that whole enterprise is about how do we build the best, most robust pathways that deliver in a really meaningful way for every student coming through.
Fabulous. And my final and very important question. What would the Anne 10 years ago have changed in what she did? And what would the Anne 10 years from now expect to see? Give me the 10-year before and 10-year after perspective.
So 10 years before today,
Yeah.
um, I think 10 years before today, I would have been very focused on the academic program alone. I would have been very
Mm-hmm.
focused on the academic institution and what the academic institution can do by itself. I think that would have,
Mm-hmm.
my universe would have been the academic world. I wouldn't have, so I would have focused on what can we do within the university alone.
Within the learning experience. Yeah.
Exactly, within the learning experience and within the halls of the university, like what can we do to,
Yeah.
so I would have been very focused on how that learning experience at that institution was the impactful thing to be focused on, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been as focused on what happens before. I wouldn't have been as focused on partnerships and those kinds of things. Um, and 10 years from now, I hope is being able to use brilliant technology that where every student who's coming through these halls has an app of some kind that tracks all of their journey from, from K through 12 on,
Mm-hmm.
that allows them to understand their strengths, their interests, and their values. And that connects them to all kinds of fabulous opportunities as well, where um, there is a kind of seamlessness between an employer community and an academic community, where the academic community that I'm part of is very focused on the facilitation of student success, the facilitation of great partnerships, where we're really putting the student at the heart of everything we do. So the analogy that we've used here is, you know, I grew up at a time when people went to shopping malls. So you go to a shopping mall, you park in a parking lot, you find your way in. There's a big display that says you are here, and there's all these like little stores, and you're trying to read the fine print, and you say, I just need socks. Like, where do I go for that? You know,
Yeah.
but you've got to buy a pretzel, and you've got to go up and down a million escalators, and you got to go to the Gap and everything else before you can find what you need, right? And you leave, and maybe you got your socks and maybe you didn't, but you've had an institutional shopping experience, right? There's
Yeah,
some
yeah,
value,
yeah.
right? Or you can go online, you can get exactly what you want. It comes to your door the next day. And the next time you go on the app, it has adjusted to make that experience more tailored to you and more perfect for you, right? And not that shopping is the best experience, best analogy for education, but I hope I'm part of a system that has truly figured out how to center the student experience in putting things at students' fingertips, ensuring their success, being able to show them the impact of what's happening, supporting them in ways. And it's not this hero's journey and this expensive, crazy endeavor. It's a seamless accessing of information and opportunity that really truly centers the student. And higher ed's role is making sure that that happens on a continuously improving the access of quality of information basis. So I think those are the two worlds. I would see myself in that future world, more technologically driven, but there's been a paradigm shift. There's been a paradigm
Yeah.
shift from
So
institution to individual,
So well said. I mean, this response actually literally like can get us into another hour of discussing on how technology can actually drive it, right? And how does it look like that
Yeah,
experience?
yeah,
Yeah, no, but amazing and inspiring to see that, you constantly keep thinking about the future.
yeah.
And that's really incredible. Thank you so much, Dr. Anne Khademian, for joining us on our podcast today.
Thank you, Ashish. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate your interest. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, thank you so much. And to all our listeners, thank you again for joining us on another fantastic episode of Edu Unlocked with me, Ashish Fernando, and our guest for the day, Dr. Anne Khademian. Thank you so much, Dr. Anne, and thank you all our listeners. We'll talk to you soon.